At my mother-in-law's birthday dinner in Rome, my seat was deliberately removed. My husband smirked. Oops, guess we miscounted. As the family erupted in laughter, I stood up and smiled. Message received. I'm not family. Then I walked out. 30 minutes later, their celebration crumbled. Venue, catering, everything I'd secretly arranged, gone. Their smug grins melted into sheer panic as they realized who truly held the power all along. The elegant restaurant overlooking the Colosseum buzzed with laughter and conversation. Sophia's 60th birthday celebration was in full swing. Crystal glasses clinked, waiters glided between tables, and the golden Italian sunset bathed everything in warm light. I approached our reserved table, gift bag in hand, scanning for my seat among the elaborate place settings I'd arranged weeks ago. There wasn't one. 10 chairs, 10 name cards, 11 people. My husband Marco caught my eye across the table and smirked. Oops, guess we miscounted, he said with exaggerated innocence. His mother's friends erupted in laughter. My sister-in-law covered her mouth, poorly hiding her smile. Sophia, resplendent in the designer dress I'd helped Marco select, merely raised an eyebrow and continued sipping her Prosecco. I stood there, gift bag dangling from suddenly numb fingers, as 5 years of marriage crystallized into perfect clarity. I placed the package on the table and smiled, not the tight, accommodating smile they were used to seeing, but something entirely new. Message received. I'm not family, I said quietly. Enjoy your evening. I walked out with my head high, their laughter fading behind me. What they didn't know as they clinked glasses and shared knowing looks was that 30 minutes later, their perfect celebration would crumble around them. Venue, catering, transportation, everything I'd secretly arranged, gone. Their smug grins would melt into sheer panic as they realized who truly held the power all along. Marco and I met 6 years ago at a friend's wedding in Milan. He was charming, attentive, and seemed different from other men I'd dated, more mature, more certain of what he wanted. Our romance was a whirlwind, and within a year, we were married in a small ceremony that his mother Sophia had numerous suggestions about. I should have seen the warning signs. Sophia was widowed when Marco was 15, and they developed a relationship that went beyond mother and son. She was his confidant, his advisor, his emotional touchstone. At first, I found their closeness endearing. Later, I realized I wasn't joining their family. I was competing for a position that was already filled. As an event planner by profession, I'd organized countless celebrations for strangers, making their dreams come true while earning their gratitude. Ironically, my skills never seemed to impress my in-laws. When Sophia's 60th birthday approached, I saw an opportunity to finally win their approval. I secretly arranged everything: flights to Rome, a luxury hotel, private tours, and tonight's exclusive restaurant reservation, all while letting them believe Marco was handling the details. It had cost nearly our entire savings, but I convinced myself it would be worth it to finally be accepted. Standing there, watching them laugh at my expense, I felt what many of you have probably experienced. That moment when you realize your worth isn't recognized by those who should value you most. Join our community, where these family struggles are understood. The pattern had been building for years. At our wedding, Sophia accidentally ordered my dress 2 sizes too small, necessitating last-minute alterations that left me squeezed into something that barely resembled my dream gown. You're just so petite, Cara, she'd said, though we'd gone shopping together, and she knew my exact size. During our first Christmas, she forgot I'd offered to bring my family's traditional dishes, preparing duplicates of everything so mine remained untouched. No one told me, she insisted, though we discussed the menu 3 times. Last summer's family vacation to Sicily featured a family photo session where I was repeatedly asked to take the picture until a waiter finally offered so I could join. When the photos were printed and framed, I noticed the only ones displayed in their homes were those taken while I was searching for my sunscreen. Each time, Marco would shrug. That's just how she is, he'd say. Don't take it personally. I'd swallowed my hurt, convinced that if I tried harder, planned better, was more accommodating, they would eventually accept me. The Rome trip was my masterpiece. I'd spent months coordinating with vendors, selecting the perfect venues, arranging personalized experiences I knew Sophia would love. I'd kept it all secret, wanting Marco to present it as a joint gift, hoping his mother would finally see me as worthy of her son. The restaurant had been the crown jewel of my planning, a rooftop terrace with a view that stretched across ancient Rome, white roses, Sophia's favorite, adorning every table, a menu featuring regional specialties from her childhood hometown. As I'd watched her arrive, her face had lit up with genuine pleasure, and for a moment I'd felt a surge of hope. "Marco, this is magnificent," she'd exclaimed, embracing him. "What a wonderful son you are, arranging all this for your mother." He'd accepted her praise without correction, without even a glance in my direction. Then came the moment of discovering my missing seat, his mocking response, and the family's unified laughter. The deliberate nature of the exclusion was unmistakable. This wasn't an oversight, but a message, delivered with surgical precision. Standing there, I saw with perfect clarity what I'd been denying for years. I would never be enough. No amount of effort, planning, or sacrifice would ever make me a true member of this family. The realization didn't bring tears, only a cold, clarifying anger that straightened my spine and steadied my hands. Walking through the cobblestone streets of Rome, each step took me further from the person I'd been. The accommodating, eager-to-please woman who diminished herself to fit into spaces too small for her spirit. The evening air carried the scent of jasmine and distant cooking, but I barely noticed, my mind racing through memories now cast in new light. I remembered signing the contracts for tonight's event, the hotel manager's impressed comment, "Your mother-in-law is very fortunate to have you." I remembered transferring the payments from our joint account, Marco never questioning where the money went, because I handled our finances. I remembered creating the detailed itinerary, the restaurant manager confirming that I had final authority over all arrangements. 5 years of trying to earn love that should have been freely given. 5 years of watching my husband choose his mother over me in 1,000 small ways. 5 years of shrinking myself to avoid rocking their precious boat. No more. I found a quiet piazza and called my best friend Eliza, the only person who had consistently pointed out what I'd refused to see. "They did what?" she gasped when I explained what had happened. "Left me standing there like an unwanted package," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "After everything you did to plan this trip? All the money you spent?" Her outrage was validating. "Honey, you know this isn't normal, right? They've been treating you like this for years, and it's not going to change." "I know that now," I said, "so what are you going to do?" I paused, considering. "Everything's in my name, you know, the reservations, the bookings. I'm the point of contact for every vendor." "You mean?" "I mean I have the power to end their perfect evening with a few phone calls." Eliza was quiet for a moment. "That's not petty, by the way. That's consequences. They've been taking advantage of you for years, and Marco has let it happen. Maybe it's time they understood exactly what they're losing." Her words solidified something in me. "You're right. I've been the doormat for too long. So what's the plan?" "First, I cancel everything. Then I decide if this marriage is worth saving." I found a cafe with Wi-Fi and ordered an espresso, my hands steady as I opened my laptop. Each cancellation brought a mixture of grief and liberation. Grief for the marriage I'd thought I had, liberation from the prison of perpetual approval-seeking. First, I called the restaurant manager. "There's been a change of plans," I explained. "I need to cancel the remainder of tonight's event, effective immediately." "Signora, are you certain? The second course is about to be served." "I'm certain. Please present the bill to Mr. Ritchie when they finish what's already been prepared." Next came the hotel. Canceling the block of luxury suites I'd reserved, keeping only one for myself. Then the private Vatican tour scheduled for tomorrow, the vintage Fiat excursion, the cooking class. With each call and email, I reclaimed a piece of myself. Finally, I texted Marco, "Enjoy the birthday dinner you all planned without me. By the way, I've canceled everything else I arranged for this trip. The hotel reservations, tours, transportation, all gone. Perhaps your mother can figure it out since she's so capable. Don't try to find me." I turned my phone to silent, ordered a glass of wine, and watched the sun set over the eternal city. For the first time in years, I felt at peace. That moment of taking back control changed everything. Many of you have faced similar crossroads in your relationships. Share your turning point in the comments, the moment you decided enough was enough. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. First came Marco's confusion. What do you mean canceled? What's going on? Then his panic. The restaurant says our dessert course is canceled, and we need to pay now. What did you do? His mother's messages followed, evolving from rage. How dare you embarrass me like this? To disbelief. You arranged all this? To desperate pleading. Please fix this, we're stranded. The family group chat exploded with confusion and accusations. My sister-in-law, who had laughed the loudest at my exclusion, now messaged, "Whatever your problem is, you're ruining Mama's birthday. So childish." I watched their meltdown with detached fascination. For years they'd treated me as insignificant, yet now my absence was catastrophic. The irony wasn't lost on me. Marco's final message came 3 hours later. "The hotel says our rooms are canceled. Where are you? We need to talk." I didn't respond. Instead, I checked into the one room I'd kept, a luxury suite with a terrace overlooking the Spanish Steps, and ran myself a bath in the marble tub. Tomorrow I'd book myself a solo tour of the city I'd come to see but hadn't planned to actually experience, too busy ensuring everyone else's comfort. As I soaked in the fragrant water, I reflected on the years I'd spent trying to earn a place in a family that had no intention of making room for me. I'd diminished my needs, silenced my objections, and twisted myself into shapes that still weren't acceptable. All while Marco watched and did nothing. I drafted an email to him, laying out exactly what I'd endured and what would need to change if our marriage had any chance of survival. Therapy, non-negotiable. Boundaries with his mother, essential. A genuine partnership where my feelings mattered as much as his comfort, the bare minimum. "I deserve better than what you've given me," I wrote. "The question is whether you're capable of being the partner I need, or if you'll always be your mother's son first and my husband second." I didn't send it yet. Tomorrow would be soon enough for ultimatums. Tonight was for reclaiming my self-respect. Marco found me the next evening. I'd spent the day on a private walking tour, seeing the Rome I'd researched so thoroughly but never expected to enjoy myself. I returned to find him sitting in the hotel lobby, disheveled and exhausted. "How did you find me?" I asked, maintaining my distance. "Called every hotel in central Rome," he said, his voice hoarse. "Took all day." I led him to the rooftop bar, choosing a public place for this conversation. His eyes widened at my transformation, the new dress I'd bought myself, the relaxed confidence in my posture. "You look different," he said. "I feel different." "You humiliated my mother," he started, then stopped when I stood to leave. "Wait, I'm trying to understand what happened." What happened is that I spent months planning a perfect birthday celebration for a woman who has never shown me basic respect. I spent our savings to create magical experiences for people who thought it was funny to exclude me from a dinner I arranged. And you, my husband, laughed along with them. His face crumpled. "I didn't know you planned everything." Mama said. "Of course she said she did it. Or you did it. Anyone but me, and you believed her because it was easier than standing up for your wife." For the first time in our marriage, he had no excuses, no deflections. "I've been a coward," he finally said. "I've been afraid of disappointing her since my father died. It was easier to let her have her way. And I was collateral damage." He nodded, eyes wet. "What happens now?" I slid the email I'd written across the table. "You read this. You decide if you want a marriage or if you want to remain a son first and foremost. I'm booking a flight home tomorrow. You have until then to decide if you're coming with me. To therapy, to a new beginning with actual boundaries, or if we're done." That night in Rome marked the first time I truly stood my ground. It's never easy drawing that line in the sand. Support others on similar journeys by liking this video. It helps more people find our community of strength. 3 months later, our apartment looks different. Marco's mother's photos no longer dominate our living room. The weekly Sunday dinners at her house are now monthly, and I attend only when I choose to. The first time I declined, stating simply that I had other plans, Marco went alone without argument. He's been seeing a therapist specializing in enmeshment issues. I have my own therapist. We meet with a couples counselor twice monthly. It's hard work, rebuilding what was broken. Harder for him, I think, unlearning patterns established since childhood. Sophia and I maintain a careful distance. The Rome incident changed something fundamental in our dynamic. She tested the boundaries once, showing up unannounced on a Tuesday evening. Marco met her at the door. "Mom, we've talked about this. You need to call first." "I was just in the neighborhood," she protested. "Then call from the neighborhood. We'll see you Sunday." He closed the door despite her protests. When he turned to me, there was a new confidence in his stance. "Was that okay?" he asked. "It was perfect," I told him. At the last family gathering, when my sister-in-law made a cutting remark about my cooking, Marco spoke up immediately. "That's enough, Julia. Apologize to my wife." The table fell silent. Sophia watched with narrowed eyes as her daughter stammered an apology. Later, as we drove home, Marco reached for my hand. "I should have done that years ago," he said. "I'm sorry it took almost losing you to understand what matters." I squeezed his hand, but said nothing. Some lessons come at a high price. The question remains whether the new boundaries will hold, whether the changes will last. But for the first time in our marriage, I'm not the only one doing the work. The Rome incident wasn't just about a missing chair at a birthday dinner. It was about claiming my place in the world and refusing to be made invisible. Sometimes you have to walk away from the table to find your seat at a better one. My story in Rome changed the course of my marriage and self-respect. Every day, people face similar moments of truth with their families. Subscribe to hear more stories of standing up to toxic relationships and finding your voice. What boundaries have you set that changed everything? Your story in the comments might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.